Welcome back, everybody, to episode 68 of the Natty 19 podcast. 68 episodes. Here we are again in Nyanzaru for the last time. I don't know.
Question mark?
We're going to jump right into it. Let's do it. Hit the music. Natty 19, baby. All right, so for a recap, let's bring it back. We opened it up pretty much at the heart of Ooptao. All right, you saw Wes. You got an update on Wesson's current status. You actually talked to Valindra. She was there. All right, Zagmira on death's door. Valindra, to your surprise, has invited herself along to enter the tomb of the 9 gods. Now, that's a kind of a situation that you got.
That is a situation.
That's a situation.
When we figured out that she was joining us, I was like, so you're going to come? Or
Yeah. Everybody's been there before.
Are we sure we have enough room in the back seat of the car?
You say that, but, I honestly don't think Valindra's ever lied to us. She was upfront about wanting to get her hands on it before anything else, and yeah, she was honest about it.
That's true, at least partially. Now, but everybody's been there before, right? You have that one person that kind of creeps you out a little bit,
yeah,
and then they invite themselves along.
Yeah. Oy.
Anyway, you go through the magic circle, you come out in the Temple of Savras. Savras or Savras? I don't know, and I don't give a fuck. We're in Nyanzaru again, so of course, everybody knows I'm drinking. Yeah, you arrive, you meet Zatembi and Anit. A warm welcome, with the exception of getting hit by that Midnight Tears poison. Wasn't bad. It could have been worse. You could have been in a nasty situation when that happened. And not the loving, caring arms of Anit and grandfather Zatembi. All right? You return to the 3 Seas shipping and freight. I mean, hell, Nyanzaru as a whole has changed, has developed since your last visit. It's teeming with adventurers now. Word has gotten out that the jungles are tameable. Is that from you guys' exploits? You like to think so. With that, the 3 Seas Shipping and Freight headquarters has upgraded. It's busy. Other adventuring parties have joined the company, spreading renown throughout the land, throughout the town. They're making a name finally. And you guys have been out there. You've been spreading the name around. Also, Anit and Zatembi, clearly they were spying on you using divinity magic, following your heroic exploits all throughout Omu. And word has gotten around.
Anit's a bit of a creep, don't you think?
I like her.
Anit is fine.
Always looking over our shoulders like that.
She cares about us.
She does.
She's just looking out for us.
I couldn't think of a better place to be but Anit's ample bosom when being
I was thinking the same thing.
When being plagued by that poison.
You entered the Gentle Mist. You returned to the Gentle Mist. You had a bath. You cleaned up. Well, before then, you learned...
It felt good.
Very importantly, and I shouldn't gloss over this, you learned that Alarad is now in Port Nyanzaru. He arrived in the company of very important persons.
Because you attached him to Richard from Lost, I can't help but get giddy. It's a handsome man.
Yeah. Yep. I'm excited.
Really knows how to put the eyeliner on.
Mm-hmm. Now, you're bathed. You've eaten. What do you do?
I guess we head up to Wakanga's villa.
Maybe we can assume Syndra will be there, because that's another stop. That's probably
Syndra lives at Wakanga's villa.
That's where she's staying. Yeah. Okay.
Let me just open it up with this.
I somehow forgot
Let
that.
me open it up. Arriving at Wakanga's villa, it's exactly, unlike Nyanzaru, the villa is exactly the way you remember it. Even the strange robed figure watching you from atop the neighboring balcony. You're greeted by an assistant of sorts. You explain to him that you're expected. He hastily guides you through the villa, up the stairs. Now, to the right, an open doorway leading out to the wall. You remember it. That's the wall you sat on watching the dino races your last visit in Nyanzaru. Ahead, a doorway with a fine silk curtain closed. The assistant turns to you. Please, wait here just a moment. He bows his head. It disappears in the silk curtain.
Cappy will edge close to it and see if he hears anything.
A moment later, the curtain opens up. You see the servant. Please, come in, Masa. His arm outstretched, holding the silk curtain open for you.
It's like when you go to enter a bathroom while somebody else is leaving at the exact same time.
That is always awkward.
You enter. Let me lay out this room. About 60 feet long, 30 feet wide, 15 feet to your left, 15 to your right. Long, big room.
That's huge.
Incense smoke billows through the curtain as you walk in. You see a large bed on the back side of the room where Syndra Sylvain lay. The room is filled with numerous people. The first person you notice is Alarad. Quincy! I see, what did I tell you guys? Look at this. Joaquin's purse is looking after us. He comes in, brings it in for a man hug.
Sir Alarad, it is good to see you.
It's good to see you guys. Look at you. He's all sweaty. He's not acclimated to the climate quite yet.
When did you arrive?
Yesterday morning. He's like, please. And then looking around beyond him, Saven is standing there, representing the Order of the Gauntlet.
How does he look?
He looks good, and he's at attention.
Cappy just nods his head towards him.
He sees you, and he smiles, extends his hand. Ah, my friends, it's been a while.
It is good to see you doing well.
And Saven was the one we rescued, right?
Yep.
You're the only survivor from the Taguda?
Taguda village. Now, also, you see Wakanga standing there, calm, with a smile on his face. He nods to you, Arame. Sitting beside Syndra's bed, a calm man, his legs crossed. Quincy, you recognize him as Master Triss.
Master Triss. And Quincy can't even help but smile. Like he can't stop the grin growing across his face.
He doesn't appear to look up at you. He has one hand gently resting on the pommel of his rapier at his side, the other on Syndra's shoulder. And you're immediately bombarded with questions of your progress. Alarad is mostly leading the charge. So come on, tell me, what's going on? We need an update. The camera pans out above the villa as you hear the voices relaying the stories, the tales, your journey through the jungle, entering the heart of Uptau, entering Omu, your journey gathering the puzzle cubes through the shrines.
I could picture that Quincy's a little bit embarrassed through this telling because of how excited he was to see Master Triss. in the somber moment that seems to be surrounding Lady Sylvain.
Yeah, Irme is torn between. She's sort of trying to speak to Syndra and Wakanga at the same time.
What is Syndra's...
Is she conscious?
Syndra's health is waning. She is conscious, but she's struggling to sit up.
Yeah, so Irme is struggling between informing, who she's making eye contact with as she informs them of everything.
There's a lot happening, a lot going on. There's a lot of stories being told. The sun moves through the sky. Quincy, pertaining to Master Triss, I mean, just with everything going on, so much attention on he's there, but the opportunity to discreetly approach him is not.
Quincy also lays his hand on the pommel of his rapier, almost, I don't know if he's unconsciously mimicking Triss, or if it's just that, it's just a way for him to try to keep himself in check, because that's the person he really wants to talk to right now.
To keep composure?
Yeah.
Irme is going to, through all the talkings, the only specific thing, and it might sound odd, but she's going to speak to Syndra about Dendar. It's kind of been eating at her that she doesn't know who Rosnacy is serving, and she kind of wants to know the likelihood of him fulfilling what he thinks he's set out to do, which is freeing Dendar. And everyone up until this point has kind of mocked it as a myth, and she's curious to know what her actions of kind of aiding Rosnacy could be, and what Syndra's view on Dendar is.
Syndra's view on Dendar, what you gather while everybody's conversing, she refers you to a book that tells the tale of the primordials and their place with the Pantheon, and also, again, just relays the legend of Uptau and his place in the Pantheon. Beyond that, she doesn't speak on it as though it was some made-up story or some ridiculous notion.
Yeah, that's the gist Irme's looking for, is does this seem like something that anyone should ever be concerned about?
Yep, no, she speaks of it as if it were an actual event. Syndra, in all of her travels, in all of her collections, firmly believes in the history of the Pantheon and all the stories that have happened.
That's comforting to Irme, because she's been seeking kind of affirmation in sort of believing in this thing that other people dismiss.
She smiles at you the best she can. She says, I have always had a liking towards you, child, ever since I first heard about you. I do hope you succeed in this task, to end this death curse, so that we may spend a bit more time together.
Irme will just solemnly nod.
You tell your stories, the events that happened. Saven is first to say, such a fantastic tale. He extends his arm to you, Copernicus, first. Says, we are all in your debt already, whether you succeed or fail. Everything that you have been through, making it as far as you have, it is an honor to shake your hand.
Cappy will shake it.
And, well, Saven, we're doing what we can. But we're gonna need more. We're gonna need more help if we're to be sent into this tomb.
He also shakes, he makes his way through, greeting everybody individually. Says, fear not, my friends. I am to bring this information back to my superiors of the Order of the Gauntlet, of course. With the Yuan-Ti upset in Omu, there should be no reason why the Order of the Gauntlet cannot set up a forward outpost.
Do you have any updates from Camp Vengeance?
Sadly, no.
They were not in good shape when we left there.
Well, perhaps we will check on them on the way through. And if they need any assistance, they will get it.
Yes, they were sick. They were trying to get us to bring back sick men for them. But at the time, we were in canoes and we're going the opposite direction, quite frankly.
I do not recall any sick men returning. Perhaps, sad to say, they did not make it.
Fuck.
That was like
That's rough,
yeah.
huh?
You win some, you lose some. You know?
Perhaps they found the herbs they needed in the jungle. Quincy holds on to a little optimism.
Oh, yeah, didn't you and Zimwabi find, or was that Zayron and
That was
Zimwabi?
me.
Yeah.
Anything is possible, my friend. And I agree, we must remain hopeful. I am to take my leave now. I believe I have all the information I need from my superiors. You will hear from us soon. And good luck, my friends. And thank you again for all that you have done. For the order.
Hashtag Camp Vengeance. Never forget, baby.
Zabel's like really impressed with Cappy right now that he remembered something like that and actually had a heart.
That is his name.
Savan takes his leave after bowing. Wakanga steps forward. You will have the support of the merchant princes of Nyanzaru, my friends. With this information, your people, he turns to the rest. Alarad, he turns to Sindra. We shall support the Order of the Gauntlet to establish this outpost. We will support the 3 Seas shipping and freight. Potions you need. Equipment you need. Please, let us know. For now, we are investigating. Now, as the day waned, I guess I should have, the sun was going through the sky as you were
mentioned
telling
it.
the stories, right? So the day is moving on. Zatembi, followed by Anit, enter the room as Wakanga's talking. Says, Zatembi. And of course, Zatembi. Yes, I am here. We are here. You see Anit, a thick book under her arm. She says, sadly, beyond what we know of the obelisk and who created it, I could not tell you much. The only things that we could turn up are tales of undead and lich forms. Zatembi speaks up. He's like, I couldn't get Valindra out of my head, personally, as we were making these discoveries. And then he continues. But what we could find out is the Tomb of the 9 Gods may be difficult to access through conventional means. And this also means getting out as well. So we could set up a magic circle in Omu at the obelisk, but beyond that, you may be on your own. And sadly, she kind of shudders. Based on information that all attempts to divine beyond the obelisk, beyond the door in northern Omu, have failed. We have strong reason to believe that the Tomb of the 9 Gods doesn't really exist in this world, but more in a pocket dimension. And if that is the case, then the only way in and the only way out is controlled by he or she who created this pocket dimension. You must be careful, my friends.
Now, did I hear you had information on who created it?
Sadly, we don't know all too much about its creator.
Do not the puzzle cubes grant us purchase?
Absolutely. But what we fear is that once the puzzle cubes open the door, should the door close, the puzzle cubes may return to their shrines.
What the fuck?
I hate those damn cubes.
What the fuck?
I mean, it makes sense, though.
We are trying to gain access to the inside of the tomb, should this be the case. We cannot know for certain, of course, until it happens.
So our first priority when we get inside should possibly be finding a access point that we can keep open.
She reaches into her robe and produces a small rod. She says, once you are inside, you can stick this into the ground or wherever it fits. Provided the proper incantations and somatic components are produced, it should grant access. However, I remain doubtful. There's no reason why we should think that it won't grant access, Zatembi interrupts.
Access into?
Irame, essentially what we are discussing is, in the event the door closes behind you, we are trying to give you a way out. My granddaughter seems to believe that it is simply not possible. And he stands up. Grandfather, the reason I believe it's not possible is because we have reason to believe that the Tomb of the Nine Gods itself does not exist in this plane. And they start kind of squabbling, and Wakanga stands up. Well, we will do what we can. For now, we go with what we know. You have the puzzle cubes. Use them to open the door. From there, we try to set this beacon, or whatever it is. If it does not work, we will continue to try.
So beacon rod.
What the fuck?
You don't like it, huh?
I don't like that all of a sudden it's like there's no way out. Or it's fucking hard to get out. We solved it. We get out. That's it.
I mean,
What the fuck?
we got the cubes. You guys can get the cubes too.
She didn't say there was no way out. She
I know
said there
she
was
didn't.
one way
I know,
in and
I
one
know.
way out. And it was, she'd like to be in control of those. Because right now, whoever created this Tomb of the Nine Gods is in control of the entrance and exit. And they'd rather it be on their terms for your own benefit.
No, absolutely. I guess Irame was just assuming that with the 9 cubes, they would have control of entrance and exit. Or at least entrance, and then upon, if we are able to defeat whatever it is, would allow us to exit. It's just a different element that Irame hadn't really considered, just being trapped in there somehow.
And he nods and she says, it is extremely understandable, Irame. Most people, when discussing outlying planes or even other planes, it is difficult for them to immediately, anyway, conceive the notion that the same laws just do not apply, especially if it is a demi-plane of sorts created by another being. You are going to be living by his rules.
Whose?
Whoever created this Tomb of the Nine Gods.
Neat. You're such a tease.
You must be careful. We will continue to study on our end, and we'll be sure to attempt to get you any information that we can. And as Wakanga steps forward again, he says, very well, I appreciate all of your efforts. Then let us begin. And you hear from the bed against the wall, Syndra clears her throat. Should we not first grant payment to the one responsible for all of this? Wakanga turns to her, and he quietly stands next to Irame. He nods. And Master Triss, who helps the struggling Syndra sit up in her bed, he approaches you, Quincy. And he says, Quincy, it has been quite some time. You have come a long way, my friend.
Quincy just kind of blushes a little bit at the compliment, but he gives Master Triss kind of a meaningful glance, a meaningful look, saying, I was hoping that we would have time to catch up, Master.
I'm sure we will. I hope. It's like, but first I must apologize. I owe all of you a great explanation.
Cappy raises his eyebrows.
Yes, Irame's definitely intrigued because she always thinks about the disaster and kind of fate that befalls everything that's around her, and is intrigued at the thought that, like, all of this isn't her bullshit.
He moves over to the open window, stares out into the busy Nyanzaru streets. A long time ago, over 100 years now, myself and my companions came to this land investigating Uptau's role in the Pantheon. Nothing grand, more so a research expedition for the Harpers.
This is shortly after the spell plague, right?
It was just before the spell plague, Irame. We found ourselves in the city of Mesro. It is there we found a new life.
Mesro, the same city that got washed over with undead.
Yes, the undead. You know a bit of it. The story in its entirety is a bit more sad. You see, one of Uptau's chosen had fallen from grace. A paladin by the name of Nasi had betrayed Mesro. And when he was exiled, we were all certain that he would begin his path of redemption. We were wrong. Nasi had cultivated an army of the dead alongside a burning vengeance that I have not seen since. His assault on Mesro was hard and fierce. Mesro's immortal protectors, known as the Barre, have done all they could to thwart the undead attacks, but the fight was long. Days turned to weeks. Weeks turned to months. The assault continued, and it was in that moment when the Barre, who were defending Mesro, power of the gods, I have not seen anything like it. They could not hold, and they knew it. It was then they turned to the legend of an artifact that could spirit Mesro away into another dimension, far from the reach of Nasi.
Quincy's brain is trying to take every word that Master Trist is speaking and put it together with the vision that he had when he found the shard of the Krugean sphere. He's trying to piece it together. He's trying to make sense of it.
See it all as he's telling it.
Yeah.
He continues, sadly, in order to awaken this artifact, it would require godlike power. Only a Barre could awaken it. And as it were, one such Barre, one that I have bonded with the course of my stay in Mesro, Sibylla Takareth. She had volunteered to be the one to awaken this artifact.
I think when Cappy hears that, he went from like half paying attention to the old elf to just staring him down now.
And when he says that, you see he lowers his head, closes his eyes, and he clutches the necklace he's wearing. And he continues, against my warnings, we had retrieved this artifact. Time was running out. Sibylla felt it was the only way, along with my companions. And so, she awakened this artifact, and Mesro was spirited away. However, during the incident, the sphere had consumed Sibylla before shattering into 3 pieces, splintering the skies of the Sword Coast. I had done my best to try to map out the locations. I knew for sure one had landed nearby here in Chult.
Quincy wants to give he wants to see what's on Copernicus's face, but he doesn't want Copernicus to know that he's looking at him. Can I roll a stealth check just to see if I get away with stealth versus perception? That's an 8.
I mean, I think Cappy's trying to hide anything.
Would it be a stealth or would it be a deception?
I'll using the same. It's the same thing.
Okay.
I mean, like I said, Cappy at this point is kind of awestruck.
Tell me about the Sibylla. I've heard that name before, elf.
Being half Fey, she had ties to the Feywild. She was the most caring creature I had ever had the honor of meeting. I had fallen in love with her, and she had fallen in love with me. But of course, saving Mesro, none of that mattered. It had to be done, and though I struggled with it dearly, I knew deep down inside I could not stop her. I was able to trace one of the pieces to the south.
And what would you do with them if you got them?
Well, there is a lot to this story that is yet to be told, my friend. Allow me to finish, and perhaps your questions will be answered. With the help of an Omuan noble, a very good friend of mine, he had helped us in retrieval of the artifact initially, I was able to transport that piece of the sphere back to Omu. Now, you must understand, the magic of the sphere, though shattered, was still intact, and the sentient magic at that. And because, well, I do not know the real reason. I had just assumed that because I was part of this awakening, for whatever reason, my touch was repelled. Now, of course, I did all I could to transport the piece that I had found to a safe location, and I had drawn a map. And that was when the spell plague struck. Now, I do not need to repeat the effects of the spell plague, but through that shattered experience, well, let's just say my progress in locating the other two pieces was delayed greatly. And as I worked many, many years to locate them, well, then came the death curse. Now my time was limited, and Quincy, I know you may not think of me the same after this, but through my years of teaching you and training you, I've witnessed the qualities required in you to take my place, and it was from there hope had begun to fester once again like an old wound, and I could not resist. So I had given you the map, but I needed more.
You have a map, huh, Quincy?
You mean the map you gave me was drawn by your own hand, and not by that of some ancient mad cartographer?
One and the same.
One and the same, my friend. Before the spell plague hit, even during and well after, my mind was not there. I became desperate in my loss. But the story does not end there. I needed more than just an intelligent, skilled fighter. I needed much more. So, running short on time, I spoke loudly of the sphere, just loudly enough for the Zentarum to hear. And as he's saying this, he moves over to you, Copernicus. And as the Zentarum deployed their agents to recover or search for this powerful artifact, I sent my best trackers to follow them, while I headed to the Moonshay Isles for perhaps the more important piece of this puzzle. And then he makes his way over to you, Irame. Of course, your mother was extremely difficult, but your father knew what others did not. He always has. And of course, I could not continue without his blessing. Your father had the respect of the court, and I followed the court. But he did give his blessing, and I began making my moves from the shadows. And Irame, the origin of your powers, was crucial in building the companions that Quincy needed for this task.
Irame will look to her friends and she'll say, My people are not originally from this plane. We hail from the Feywild. High Lady Ordolf moved us here during the spell plague. We defeated the people on the island of Gwyneth, and there we have dwelled since.
It is important to always remember our history, Irame. I have a great respect for you and your family, and I always will. And again, and he bows, saying this, I do apologize for my discretion, my secrecy. I did not want it this way, but I feared the sentient power would do all it could to prevent me from reassembling this sphere to free Sibylla.
The power that it took to move our kingdom of Seraphal from the Feywild to this plane was unimaginable. Removing Sibylla from where she is now, she won't be the same.
I agree, but I also believe that in time, with help, perhaps we could get her back. He turns to you, Zayril. I do not know where you fit into all of this, my friend, but I did trust in the power that Irame held within her, even though she does not realize it. And he places his hand on your shoulder, Zavril. And in doing so, you're instantly brought to the streets of Waterdeep, standing in front of a building. It was the publisher that you had gone to see about your book. A sign hanging on the door. "Sorry, we are closed," it read. And then your vision begins to move through the door, beyond into the room. You see a gnome face down on the desk, white-haired, empty booze bottles all around him. And then your vision kind of leaves the room and it fades to you shaking the hand of Alarad of the 3 Seas Shipping and Freight. And then you're back in the room, Wakanga's villa. And he moves on. He says, I understand there is much to do, and there are a lot of details and intricacies involved here. But time is of the essence, and I will continue to do all I can to aid in breaking this death curse that has fallen over our land. But first, I must ask that we free Sibylla, and that we do it tonight. And he turns to you, Quincy.
Quincy kind of almost looks heartbroken a little bit. He says, "Master Triss, I had looked up to you, and I had trusted you. Even my own parents, I never felt like my father. If I had been his eldest son, he would have forced me down the path of following his footsteps. Nobody in my family had understood my passions, my thirst for knowledge. But it was you who cultivated this. And I had always thought that, well, that you are my friend. And perhaps that is so. But I had always been taught that friends don't lie to one another. It was your wisdom that I hoped to seek when I found this." And Quincy pulls the third piece of the Krugean sphere from his pouches and looks over to Copernicus.
I sorely underestimated you.
I wanted to tell you, Copernicus. I did not know if you were a slave to your pain, or if you knew what you were doing.
Well, I guess we're going to find out now, aren't we?
Triss lifts his head to you, Quincy, tears welling in his eyes. "Quincy, my final lesson to you is just that. Sometimes withholding information from your friends is a necessity, whether we want to or not. Just as you have withheld your finding from Copernicus, I felt it was necessary for the success to withhold it from you. And I will understand if you cannot forgive me for this. But you must realize it is something that I believed had to be done."
Quincy tries to swallow, but his throat is really dry. He just kind of pauses a moment, and then he walks over to Copernicus, and he holds the Krugean sphere out.
Wow.
He accepts it. And he's just staring at it.
Says, this has been my life's work. For years now. I don't think Sibylla is who you think she is anymore.
Triss smiles, almost dryly, and he nods. He says, "I am well aware of who Sibylla is. I must also say, to reassemble the Krugean sphere here and now would be a disaster. There are preparations we must make. We must do it correctly.
He looks over at Quincy.
Your map all along, Quincy. Your stupid little map.
It was a map I treasured greatly.
Memories take you back to Lady Sylvain's estate.
I think episode 1.
Episode 1.
Yeah.
When Quincy had first brought it out, mentioned it.
And the same map he asked me to destroy.
Well, we're glad that never happened.
You hear you almost hear yourself. Yes, whip it out. Let's see it. You hear Irma. Yes, I love maps.
Wouldn't that have been quite the story had Quincy died and Zavril destroyed the map?
Yep.
Would have had to rewrite that one, huh?
So then, Triss, you seem to know a lot. You know I have the other 2 pieces in my possession then.
I do. If it not for the Zentarum, I'm not sure you would have.
Go on.
He saddens a bit. Must apologize for Clem, was it?
Yes. Clementine.
She was one of the 8. Fine Christian name.
Fine. Hans Christian Andersen.
I believe she was the first agent the Zentarum sent out.
Oh, yes.
I understand there was a bit of a relationship there, and I understand all too well what effect that has, whether it be serious or not.
It was short and utterly terrible, but yes. Relationship we did have until we tossed her carcass into a pit.
Clem?
Indeed.
He tossed her carcass.
I fucking killed her.
That you did, Irame. So I'm just supposed to give you all 3 pieces of the sphere now.
Sadly, you cannot give them to me. I am
Cannot touch them, Quincy says, kind of almost with a sneer, like he's a little bit jaded, or a little bit bitter, maybe is the better word.
Well, he has all 3. Well, Copernicus has all 3 spheres in his possession, 3 pieces. He's just gonna think of Sybil, like he's never like really done this around other people, but he's gonna like try to summon her up, as if she comes or listens or.
There's no response from Sybil.
What the fuck?
Triss turns to Zatembi. Says, Zatembi, could I ask you a great favor, my friend? Zatembi nods. Of course, Master Triss. Anything for the Harpers, you know this. We need to use your temple tonight if we are to properly reconstruct the Krugean sphere. And I may need some supplies. Of course, Master Triss, we will do anything we can to help.
So we are in agreement then. We will bring my Sybil, your Sibylla, back.
That has always been my goal, Copernicus. It is why we are all standing here.
Irame looks solemn at the thought of it just not quite working. Her knowing where her people come from and the power that it took for her High Lady to move from one plane to another is, she just doesn't look at it optimistically for anybody involved. But obviously knowing that it's possible.
So I just want to hit on the fact that his version of Sibylla and my version are completely opposite. So I'm trying to hash that out with him. You know, that's what I guess I was trying to get at. I've mentioned it a couple times, but I don't know if...
So Copernicus is starting to come
He's
to the
blinded by
realization
love.
that Sybil is a little dirty.
Yeah, you're gonna let
dirty girl.
You're gonna let Sybil out?
Yeah, are you sure we should be? Copernicus is starting
Well, I'm
to take
picturing-
the
yeah, like-
cautious role.
This room is like clean and bright and like with all these respectful people, and he's talking about Sybil in such a nice way, and it's like I've spent the last 10 plus years with her, and
Yeah, but where has Sybil spent the last 10 plus years?
well, 100 plus.
100 plus.
I don't know.
Exactly. She might not be the same person anymore.
Well, that's what he's saying.
All right,
Quincy
that is what I'm
breathes.
saying.
Yeah, and that's
might
what
be.
Irme's saying.
Quincy breathes a sigh of relief that the secret that he was holding from Copernicus and taking on the decision of what to do with the Krugean sphere is now just not on his shoulders anymore. And he looks at Copernicus and says, I do not envy you this position, friend. I trust that you will make the right decision. Although these days I don't even know what that is. Once I would have blindly followed Master Triss. I'm just not sure anymore.
He is your teacher, Quincy. I think he has taught you another valuable lesson. And not to mention, you did the same thing he did.
But one does hold one's teachers in higher regards than themselves.
I would love to give Master Triss the credit he deserves in bringing us all together, but I do think that there's something beyond even Master Triss bringing us all together. And if reuniting the Krugean sphere and whatever consequences that brings is part of it, we should move forward.
It is the right thing to do.
Perhaps not the right thing to do, but maybe our fate.
Sibylla gave her life to save thousands of people.
Cabby's just shaking his head. Even the name, it's so foreign.
I agree, Master Triss, but in the quest to do what is right, you can often become something you didn't see yourself becoming.
Irame, what a world it would be if we did not expect the unexpected.
And Irame only says that in knowing her brief relation she has had with Sybil.
Says I have my theories on what has become of Sibylla. I have had 100 years to make these considerations, and I have been preparing for her release for a long time.
Do you realize we have a pact? Me and her.
If my calculations are correct, your pact is not with Sibylla. We will make that discovery next week on the Natty 19 podcast.
Let's go
about
to the
to
temple.
happen.
All right, and then I have a really weird question after all this because I'm kind of confused. So, did she get moved to a different plane or did she die? Like, I'm extremely fucking confused.
Did who get moved to a different plane?
Sibylla?
Sibylla.
Sibylla?
I think Sibylla helped move Mesro.
Yeah, the Krugean sphere was portal magic.
Right, but what I was confused at is like, I was thinking she moved herself with it as opposed to moving it and dying on the spot.
No, she didn't. I think she moved it, and in the movement of it, trapped herself in a different plane.
Yeah, I could spoil it, but
That's mine.
All right, I didn't understand.